With this here, this ain't about being flashy. This is game day, son. It's only about one thing. Getting that W. That's the only thing that matters right now. Boy, are you ready?
The past is the past, you know? It's a new day, bro. My day. Gotta do it now.
Whew, it is upon us. We are 2 days away from the first game of the season. You guys got to be pumped, aren't you?
Woo! Yeah! Well, that means we're excited.
Yeah,
very excited.
Or gay, one of the two. Jesus,
There's nothing wrong with that.
That was really pathetic. All right, well, we're back for another podcast. Marcus and Matt back. We brought back Rob for us to do another podcast. Going to talk some Week 1 rankings, which are going to be up on the site a little bit later tonight. Or probably up on the site by the time you listen to this, depending on how early you're listening to this. But we're going to go over all of our Week 1 rankings, kind of guys we like more than normal, guys we don't like more than normal. A few bold predictions for each position. And I just got to say, all of us here, we listen to our buddies over at ESPN, the Fantasy Focus podcast. Matthew Berry, Nate Ravitz, and all them. And I got to say, if you listen to today's podcast that they talked all about handcuffing the wide receivers.
Yeah, they obviously stole that from you, right?
Yeah, I'm come on.
I'm not happy about that.
They listen to this podcast, guys. That's what happens. I mean, they talked all about what I've been talking about, I think, 2-3 weeks ago when I was saying, handcuff Amendola with Edelman, handcuff Hakeem Nicks with Ruben Randall. They threw an extra one in there saying, handcuff Roddy White with Harry Douglas. But I got to say, I mean, I pretty much called that, I think, 3 weeks ago. So, props to me. I'm happy.
Congratulations. You're heroes.
I got to get a pat on the back sometime. So, before we jump into these Week 1 rankings, don't forget to get on Draft Street, you guys, and sign up for the free roll through our website. $300 free roll to play with Rob, Matt, and I. Make sure to use Blind30 as your secret coupon code there to get an extra 30% on any deposit that you make. But even if you don't make a deposit, go play in the free roll. Win some free money. Hopefully, some of you guys out there will win something. So let's jump into it. We're gonna go into quarterbacks first here. Michael Vick against Washington. I was kind of surprised, Rob, in your rankings. You had him ahead of the other running quarterbacks. Ahead of Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, and RG3. Tell us a little bit about why you like Michael Vick more than all three of those other running quarterbacks.
Well, obviously, I'm a little biased with him in our home league. There's no doubt I love that offense. I think he's going to ride that momentum. I like the momentum. I like what he's built this preseason. I know it's just preseason, but it's a mindset he's in. I like the matchup against Washington, but I do think that he's just going to ride that momentum through that game one, and that offense is really going to flourish. One, I have him so high too, just because I'm a little curious. I'm curious about how well that offense will do. It's really the proving week to show what Chip Kelly's offense can do in the NFL, and I think Vic's going to have sort of a chip on his shoulder to prove that offense can move the ball.
What do you think, Matt?
Well, I'll skip it just because, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking bold predictions, and God damn it, he was mine, so let's move on to the next guy. I mean, unless you wanted to talk about him, but I'll be talking about him.
No, that's fine. We can move on. Let's move on to Andrew Luck here. This is another one that I thought, out of all the second-year quarterbacks, I found it surprising that we all pretty much had Andrew Luck this week as the number one quarterback, out of the Russell Wilsons and the RG3s and those types of guys, which isn't the consensus, obviously, going into the season, but this first week, obviously, you're looking at it under a microscope. We got him higher than the other guys. I don't know what you guys were thinking when you're doing your rankings, but for me, it was the fact that he's going up against Oakland. I mean, probably the worst, or if not the worst, one of the worst defenses in the league. So I think he's just going to have a great time just slinging the ball out there, not afraid of those DBs at all. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's not just defense. It's the worst offense. It's the worst front office. It's the worst concessions. The worst cheerleaders. They're a joke of a team. And that's exactly why I've moved him so high up in the rankings. Obviously, weekly you're looking at matchups, and you got to love the matchup against Oakland. They're just terrible. The only concern with it is a game that gets away from them so quickly. Oakland, I mean, that it just turns into grind it out. Let's get this game over with. And Luck doesn't have the opportunity to put up a bunch of points in that regard. But, yeah, I mean...
I am not worried about guys like Ahmad Bradshaw grinding it out.
Well, I mean, as bad as this team is, I can see a blowout happening. So that's the only concern I would have. But, yeah, I mean, Luck against Oakland, you got to love that.
And I actually have Luck. I think I'm probably highest on Luck. I have him above those second-year quarterbacks in my preseason ranks, I believe. So I'm high on him throughout the year, and this matchup just feeds into that.
I think, personally, like I said, for me, it's just a great matchup. I am not as high on him for the year because I think no Bruce Arians is really going to hurt him this year. But let's jump into our bold predictions. Matt, I know you just mentioned yours. Sounds like it's going to be Michael Vick. So let's hear it. What do you got on Vic?
Yeah, so my bold prediction, we'll preface it with kind of unlikely to happen. Obviously our rankings are where you're going to look to for what we really think.
They're bold predictions. They're
exactly.
They're not just predictions. If we were doing just predictions, I mean, yeah. Tom Brady's going to have 2 touchdowns this week.
My bold prediction is Michael Vick's going to lead all quarterbacks in scoring this week. Like Rob said, I think, we've heard... The Eagles really didn't show everything. They really were a vanilla version of what they're going to be. Like you said, I mean, he had a rough year last year. I think he's coming in with a chip on his shoulder. He's playing against, Griffin, who's a guy similar to him in his early years. And maybe he wants everyone to remember, I'm the guy that runs this football when it comes to quarterbacks. I got a good feeling about Vic this week. So he's my bold prediction. He's going to lead all quarterbacks in scoring.
I hope that's right.
Yeah, well, speaking of running quarterbacks, my bold prediction is also a running quarterback, but not one that you would think. I'm going to do the anti-homer pick here and say EJ Manuel has over 20 fantasy points this week.
Yeah,
I think this is going to become a blowout in New England real quick, and there's going to be lots of garbage time, lots of extra yards to be had. He's going to pick up 30, 40 yards rushing just in the second half once the blowout happens. And he's just going to be slinging the ball out there. The Patriots' defense last year, I don't think a lot of people realize this, and I'll start by saying that, against Buffalo, I have the Patriots as my number 1 defense. So I like the Patriots this week because I think there will be a lot of turnovers. But the one thing I think people forget about the Patriots' defense is they let up a lot of points. So it's going to be... Obviously, the Patriots are going to win the game, and they're going to win by 10 points or whatever. But I think this is going to be a game where you could see a 40-24 game or a 40-30 game where the Bills still score a lot of points. And like I said, all that garbage time in the second half, EJ Manuel just lets loose. Maybe when he scrambles, instead of getting a 5-yard scramble because the Patriots are up so much playing a prevent, it turns into a 15-yard scramble. So it's the extra points that way. So my bold prediction, over 20 fantasy points for EJ Manuel this week.
And me, I'm gonna stick with the theme here, this running quarterback theme, and I'm actually gonna go back to Matt's game, but on the other side of the ball, I think Griffin is gonna surprise some people this week, and mostly because we haven't seen him, so there's a lot of doubters in terms of how healthy he is. But if you've seen his demeanor, both on the field before the games and at practice, and some of the things that we've seen just in clips from him running around at practice, he looks like he's ready to go. He's a competitor. I'm not that high on that Philadelphia defense. I think they're still very vulnerable. So I think my bold prediction is Griffin. I'm not going to go number 1. That's a little too bold for my taste.
He can't be number 1 if Vic's going to be number 1.
But I'll go top 3 quarterback Robert Griffin this week.
All right.
Nice. Well, do you guys think, speaking of running quarterbacks, do you think in like 10 years running quarterbacks going to be the norm? We're going to have to start talking about the other quarterbacks as being the pocket quarterbacks?
No.
I think that's ever going to happen?
No.
I think this is going to turn into a running...
Fran Tarkenton was a running quarterback. Randall Cunningham was
I know,
one of
but
the
I'm
best of all
saying
time.
now we're getting into more and more...
The pocket passes are still the premier guys, and I don't think that's going to change, but you're going to see more... Andrew Luck ran a 4.6 40. Is he a running quarterback? He probably could be. He's fast as any of them out there, really. But the pocket passing isn't going to go away. I don't think. They're just going to be a little more versatile.
And that would need a full shift in mindset from coaches' schemes. And I don't think you'll ever see a complete shift to that. I think you'll always see people on both sides of the ball protecting their quarterback or sending them back there in a pocket.
Yeah, I mean, look what's happening with Griffin now. They're talking, we're going to reel him in. You can't. Your quarterback is your bread and butter. They're the most important.
They can't take hits like they're taking.
Yeah, you can't subject them to that and think that he's going to make it through the season. So I don't think so, but it's definitely
I was just throwing that
changing. It is.
So moving on to running backs here, a guy that we kind of broke the news on last week in our podcast as it was happening. So David Wilson, Andre Brown on the short-term IR, can't come back until at least week 10. Ironically, I had him in the Blindside staff league, Andre Brown, so that really, really hurts me.
Yeah, you were high on Brown, weren't you?
I was pretty not high on him. I thought there was great value with him in the 7th, 8th round because of the touchdowns he'd get and the yardage he'd get. But David Wilson against Dallas, how are you guys ranking him this week? I mean, he's the guy now. Can you even name the next backup for the Giants? I mean, he's the guy. He's going to get all the work. I mean, I don't know. Do you think they throw more? Does this make Victor Cruz? Does this injury help Victor Cruz and Hakeem Nicks? I mean, what do you guys take on this?
I think it's going to help David Wilson tenfold. I mean, there's who else is going to be there? They got Darrell Scott. There's nobody there proven. And not that either one of these two are, but we've seen a lot of good things from David Wilson. He's going to be the goal line back now. I mean, they don't really have a big bruiser that's going to fill that role behind him. Darrell Scott's another small guy. David Wilson's going to be out there for third downs. He's going to be catching the football. I think it just moves him up big time. We talked about it in the PPR podcast last Thursday night. They may open up the passing game a little bit, but I don't know. I think it's just going to be a case of really the biggest, obviously, benefit is going to be David Wilson because he's not going to be sharing these carries. I think he's going to get the goal line work now. I think, moving him way up, and I don't have him with me right now. I think I had him up to 16 for week 1. And even overall for the year, I moved him quite a bit up. I'm excited about David Wilson now that Brown's out of there. And it is only 4 to 6 weeks, but we'll see what he does. I think he could really put a lock on this job.
I agree. I mean, obviously the scheme has to change when you lose a piece of the puzzle like that. But I think, imagine how much his juices are flowing, getting ready to go week 1. This is his chance to prove himself, And I think, the preseason is when you sort of establish positions in terms of depth charts and where you are. But week 1 on the field, when it actually counts, that's what's going to lead Coughlin to trust him. And I think that's a big key to that relationship is having Coughlin needing to lean on him now. I think will build that trust, and I think we'll see that relationship grow, and I think Wilson will thrive.
I think you're right. I think it is going to build his confidence in Wilson, but I still think in the first week Wilson's going to have 15 to 17 touches. He's not going to crack 20, and I think in the beginning they lean more heavily on the pass, and then slowly work towards getting him 20 touches a game. I think eventually that's going to happen. I think right off the bat it's not. But that's definitely one game I really want to see this weekend to see how that shakes up. The next guy on this list, I mean, this wouldn't be a Blindside podcast if we didn't talk about David Wilson, Lamar Miller, and then a little bit later the Denver running back. So
this wouldn't be a fantasy football podcast if we didn't talk about that stuff.
That's true. I mean, so Lamar Miller against Cleveland, he's been named the starter. It's Cleveland. Nobody's afraid of Cleveland. We could run on Cleveland. Why do we not have this guy higher in our rankings? I mean, what are we scared about with Lamar Miller?
Well, for me, I wish Matt hadn't talked up the Daniel Thomas talk, and I probably would have believed in Miller in my gut, which I did from the beginning. In terms of this week, I think it's just a matter of having seen it. It's a matter of, you see the skills, you see the talent, but to trust a Miami running back is still something I'm a little nervous about. I haven't done it in quite some time. So
Speaking of which, I got to throw this out real quick because I did actually tweet out a stat about this earlier in the week. In the last 9 years, the Dolphins have only had 3 guys rush for over 1,000 yards in 9 years.
Yep.
Jeez.
Just throwing that out there.
Ricky Williams, Ronnie Brown, and...
No, it was Ricky Williams, I think, like twice. And then I can't remember who the third guy was.
Had to have been Ronnie.
I really can't remember. Ronnie Brown got hurt so much, I don't know if he ever really did crack 1,000. But I just thought that was interesting to say, we're all talking about the Lamar Miller hype. 3 times in 9 years, they cracked 1,000
I think that's
yards.
why Rob's kind of saying he just wants to see it before you get too excited.
Exactly, especially with that line losing Long. He's an integral piece to that running game. So I think week 1 will be interesting. I might jump on the bandwagon. I mean, I like him. I like the physical skills. I want to be a fan. I just need to see it.
I'm still not sold on the fact, even in the NFL today, it's becoming more of, they might be the starter. That doesn't mean they're going to get 25 carries. You know what I mean? Exactly. It's a title. All preseason, first, second down, it was Lamar Miller. Third down, Thomas is coming in. I still don't think they're confident in him and his, blitz pickup, pass blocking. There was a lot of talk about Thomas. I don't think he's going to be just completely forgotten. I don't know if it was all just, word play. I don't know why you would. You don't know what you're game planning for Lamar Miller anyway, so why try to keep him secret? You haven't really seen him on the field. So, I don't know. I like you said, Rob, I think I agree with you. I want to see what kind of the distribution is going to be, playing time versus touches, and we'll just see it the first time before I put all my eggs in his basket,
I mean, honestly, I already did my rankings, but I feel like maybe if I readjust him a little bit later in the week, he might creep up for me just a little bit, because it is Cleveland. I mean, they're going to get up on Cleveland. They're going to run the ball. Lamar Miller's going to have over 20 touches easy this week.
You think they're going to get up like this is a shoe-in Dolphins
No. It's not going to be like a Patriots-Bills thing where they're going to be up big. It's going to be they're up a touchdown the whole game, though. And I think Lamar Miller's going to have 20 touches. Easy 20 touches. And 20 touches against Cleveland is significant. But moving on to the Denver running backs here. They said that they're going to use a different running back for the entire drive, each drive. So maybe it's drive 1, it's Moreno. Drive 2, it's Hillman. Drive 3, it's Ball. Drive 4, it's back to Moreno. Kind of the whole drive, it's going to be one guy. They're not going to be subbing guys in and out because of their up-tempo offense. So I think it really hurts the value of all three of these guys because you don't know who's going to get a majority of the work or if they're all going to get a third of it. But what do you guys think? Do you think this is kind of like a tryout in week 1? Hey, let's get all three of them in there. Let's get all three of them, 3 or 4 drives, see how they do. Then the following week, even though it may be one guy in a full drive, all of a sudden Moreno gets 60% of the drives and Ball gets 30%. Or how do you think this is going to work? Who was your top-ranked Denver running back this week?
It definitely sounds like a tryout, but Jesus, how much more time do you need for a tryout? I mean, I guess he wants to see it in the actual game situations. The running back for the entire drive isn't super surprising to me just because, I mean, it's surprising that they're going to have
I think it's crazy surprising to me.
What I'm saying is...
You have guys that can pass block and you don't have guys that can. Why wouldn't you put them in there in those situations?
Because the way Peyton Manning runs an offense is get up to the line of scrimmage. There's not enough time to really be making these changes. So that's what I was saying by that. An entire drive, the same running back, I understand because of the way he tries to get up and move the plays along. But a different one, like you said, Ball first one, Moreno second, Hillman third, whatever it ends up being is interesting. It does seem kind of like a tryout. For me, for this first week, I think Moreno's going to have the better of the three. Not that I'm going to touch any one of them, just because he's the veteran. They know what they have in him. Like I talked about last week, I think Ball's going to end up being the guy, and Hillman is the one on the outside looking in, but I could be totally wrong. I don't think anybody really knows right now.
I think you're right. I think Hillman's definitely the guy looking in. I think they named him the starter, or he's number 1 on the depth chart, or whatever that is. But I mean, truth be told, when McGahee went down last year, they didn't turn to Hillman; they turned to Moreno.
Right.
Everybody kept saying, "Hey, it's going to be Hillman this week. It's going to be Hillman." And then Sunday morning, what did we hear? It was Moreno.
Right.
And Moreno took him the rest of the way.
Yeah.
This is clearly a lack of confidence move. Moving these around. I was mostly shocked that the coach would even tell the public this, the other team this, so that they could strategize against it. I mean, coming from a hometown where we value our Patriots, we get as much news from Bill Belichick as we get from a guy off the street. So to see this kind of news come out, I mean, scheming against it, what I think will be interesting is...
Could he be pulling a Bill Belichick move, though, and maybe say he's going to use all three, and next thing you know, one guy's in there for 90% of the plays?
That's what I was going to say. If Ball has... Let's say he puts Ball first series, and he has 4 or 5 great rushes, I'd love to see what happens when Hillman comes in the next play, fumbles. I have a feeling they might skip that rotation a bit. So I think this is what they're saying going in, but I do think it's a tryout, and I think it's, like you mentioned, Matt, they've had enough time to look. This is a very short-term tryout. I think it's motivation for these guys to really run like hell and do what they can in their respective drives. So,
yeah. Moving on. Let's go on to this next one on this list here. Darren McFadden against Indianapolis. I got to tell you, having Terrell Pryor as the starter, he was named the starter this week. having him as the starter is going to help spread out this offense, I think, and it's going to help provide bigger lanes for Darren McFadden. I mean, we saw it a few years ago, when Michael Vick came in, helped LaShawn McCoy out. I think this is a chance to help McFadden out and actually give him some running room this year. Not to mention, because Terrell Pryor, it's going to be his first game, there could be a lot of handoffs to McFadden. It could be just give it to McFadden, first down McFadden, second down McFadden, third down throw the ball, and then do it again. So I think McFadden could get a lot of work this week against a very poor Colts defense. What are you guys' feelings about McFadden with Terrell Pryor being named the starter?
I think there'll be a lot of 3 and outs. If that's the case.
Doesn't change anything from last year then.
Assuming McFadden even makes it 2 runs into the season, but I do think he adds an interesting dynamic to that team. I think it's a smart move from Oakland's perspective to put him in the starting role because he at least makes that team somewhat interesting to watch. I mean, even if it's a train wreck, I do think he's gonna run the ball. He's an athletic quarterback that's more exciting to see. If I was really reaching for a quarterback right now, let's say you waited too long for that quarterback and you need to take a flyer on somebody as a backup with some upside, I think Pryor's definitely your guy. What do you think, Matt?
Well, Marcus got his pat on his back earlier. We remember all the podcasts, I'm sure all of you do, where we went into sleepers. Marcus named Tom Brady his sleeper. I picked Terrell Pryor.
You did.
I picked Terrell Pryor. Here we are, week 1. He's starting. I'm a genius. But I mean, I don't think there's not really a lot of injuries.
I'll still take Tom Brady over Pryor.
Yeah,
put it on the board.
You can have it. So, yeah, Terrell. I don't know about him playing this week for me, just because it's week 1. There really hasn't been in the injury bug or anything like that for the quarterback. So there's got to be some better ones out there. Upside, I agree with you. I mean, we could see them come out in this completely unconventional offense. Running the pistol. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. They're not going to be, I formation, single back type drop back fight. It's going to be an interesting game to see what they're going to do with Terrell Pryor. And I do think he's got some serious upside. I think he's actually going to be a pretty good fantasy football quarterback this year. As long as he holds on to the job, which I think he will. Why not? You're not going to do anything there in Oakland anyway, so give the young kid a chance. But I think I agree with you, Marcus. It's definitely going to open some lanes for McFadden. I don't know. I could see a big day for Darren McFadden because they're going to have to lean on him for sure. They're not going to trust Terrell to try to throw them back into this game. But it ultimately might be the case where they're going to have to. I think Indianapolis is going to kill them. But yeah, McFadden's going to be involved in the passing game. He was last year. He will be this year. He's going to be checking down young quarterbacks. They're not going to be spreading the field too much. I could see a good game from McFadden, and I think my rankings will reflect that. They'll be on tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll lead me right into my bold prediction, which is Darren McFadden is going to be a top 10 fantasy running back this weekend. He's going to have 150 total yards and a touchdown. That's my big bold prediction. I think he's even if his yards per carry is terrible, they're going to feed him the ball because it's a new quarterback. Hopefully Pryor with his running ability is going to spread those lanes. The only thing I am a little bit worried about is his throwing ability is going to keep those safeties up a little bit. So it's going to be kind of a stacked box almost, if you will, against McFadden. But I think there's that chance that he could have 18 carries but another 6 or 7 receptions and gets to those 150 yards because he breaks one for 40, 50 yards, maybe longer. So my bold prediction, top 10 this week, 150 total yards and a touchdown.
I got Rashard Mendenhall as my bold prediction. I've loved him all preseason, so I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. He's gonna have 115 yards rushing, 40 receptions, and he's gonna score a touchdown. So I've got him.
40 receptions.
Sorry, 40 receiving yards. 40 receptions, yes. I'm going to put it on the board right now. Bold prediction, 40 receptions, week 1.
That is
Rashard Mendenhall. You heard it here first.
That is crazy bold. I was going to say, I literally almost did a spit take with my beer right then. 40, across the wall.
Yeah, 40
receptions. Holy Christ.
We know Arians likes to pass, but geez.
40 receiving yards, 115 yards rushing, and a touchdown. There's your week 1 game line from Mendenhall. What about you, Rob? Bold prediction, running backs.
My bold prediction, I listened to your PPR podcast last night. It aligns well with my bold prediction for the year of Reggie Bush breaking the reception record of a running back at 101. I think he's going to break 100 receptions. I think his first game, he's going to have 10 receptions in week 1. I won't say 40. He's not as
he's no man at all.
He's no man at all. No man at all. No. But I do think 10. Seeing what he's done in limited play with 5+ catches in these preseason games, I think 10 is going to shock us. It isn't going to shock us when we see that week 1.
Yeah, the way those defensive ends in Minnesota get upfield, pressure on the quarterback, a great way to combat that. Your screen passes, the short dump routes to the running back is going to keep them a little more honest. So I could definitely see 10 catches. I hope he has 1 and 4 yards rushing, so Minnesota wins that game. But I think I like your prediction there.
All right, so wide receivers here, a guy that we kind of had as I would say probably the consensus number 2 wide receiver behind Calvin Johnson. Brandon Marshall goes up against the Bengals this weekend, and it looks like all of us are a little scared about that hip news. We all have him obviously as a starter. We all have him as a wide receiver number 1. I got him at 4. Rob's got him at 7. Matt has yet to do his ranking, so we have no idea.
Hey, we have there's an 8 o'clock deadline, right? I'm just making sure the fans get the best possible rankings.
Yeah, I mean,
news could come in at any moment. I'll get it to you by 8 o'clock.
You're right. But I thought it was interesting that all of us, probably had him as that consensus number 2 wide receiver going into this year, but none of us had him even close to that coming into this week. And I think very little of that had to do with matchups. At least it did for me. Rob, what made you push him down to number 7 for you?
For me, it was I'm not overreacting to the hip news. I think he'll be ready to go. He's a beast, but it's a little bit on that and a little bit on Cincinnati. It's also in some of the other matchups that some of those elite wide receivers have. I think they're just more favorable in general in week 1. I might regret this, seeing as how every single pass will most likely go Marshall's way in terms of where Cutler will be looking number 1. But I'm holding fast with that 7. I think Cincy's going to shock a lot of people with their defense this year, not getting too much into defenses. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean they're going to stick Leon Hall's a good cornerback. He'll be on him. The hip injury is a little concerning, but honestly, it's something that happened during the offseason. He looked just fine, in the preseason games that you saw him playing.
I think more than anything, it was surprising to all of us because none of us had heard about it until recently. Yep. I think it's something that's always been there, but just kind of caught everybody off guard.
Yeah, and like I said, it's been there. We've seen him play. He, by watching him, you would have never guessed he was hurt. He looked great this preseason. So, like you said, there's other favorable matchups out there. Week to week, you're gonna make some changes here and there based on matchups, basically, and that's kind of the same situation for me. Not too scared of the hip, but it is when you're splitting hairs between these great wide receivers. It's something that can move them down, just a notch.
So 2 wide receivers that have gone, I think, top 10 pretty much in every league that I've seen. Julio Jones and Roddy White come up against New Orleans this week, in which we probably all expect to be a huge shootout game. Both teams putting up 40 points probably this weekend. I was a little surprised because even I put them both in my top 7, but Rob, you had them both in your top 5.
Top 5.
That is. I think that is your bold call right there. But tell us about how you have 2 receivers from the same team in your top 5.
It's partly about that matchup. New Orleans, with the new Ryan defense, they bring the pressure, and I think that opens up a lot of deep plays. But really, I love the matchup. I know Roddy has been dealing with some issues. Didn't know if he was going to be ready to go. He is going to be ready to go, and I think they'll be looking his way early and often, especially with the attention that Jones will bring. But like you mentioned, this is going to be a shootout. This is going to be a high-scoring game, and I think that with Roddy and Julio, I think that lends well in their favor. So I have them both in the top 5. I have Roddy ahead of AJ Green going against Chicago. I think that's probably a bold prediction in itself.
Yep.
But with the shootout that this is going to be, I felt comfortable putting Roddy at number 5.
I think I have them both in the top 11.
Whoa, that's bold.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to be bold, but Roddy's coming back from his his ankle injury. It was they called it a low ankle sprain. High is the one that you're, worried about. And I think that was about 3 weeks ago now, 2-3 weeks ago. He's playing. He's fine. I think it's more just...
He hasn't missed a game, I think,
in like 4 years.
In his entire career or something.
One of the two, yeah. So, I mean, it's just a case of I'm not going to have... I don't know. Two guys in the top 5 from the same team is tough. I agree. It's going to be a shootout for sure. These two offenses are awesome. I mean, we've seen this for years now. I don't know. Top 5, a little crazy for me, but...
Well, there's another receiver in this game that potentially, obviously, could have a great day too, and that's Marcus Colston. And what I was surprised at is, for me, I figured this game to be a shootout. So as much as I dislike Colston because of his up and down, games that he had, I still ranked him 14th this week. But Rob, you got him ranked 25th. So you must be thinking that Atlanta is just going to blow out New Orleans and Colston's just going to be shut down, huh?
This isn't really I didn't go matchup. I went Colston and how I don't really believe in him as a elite wideout. I also think that Breeze has more targets, more weapons this year to use with the rookies he's got there on wideouts that have shown what they can do in the preseason. I think there's a lot of different weapons to spread the ball around. So for me, it was more about I'm low on Colston in general, and then the additional targets in the New Orleans offense, I think, will detract.
I was going to say, I think I'm the only guy that has ranked Kenny Stills in there. I actually ranked Kenny Stills to my 52 wide receiver. I understand 52, it's way down there, blah, whatever. But I think out of all of us, I'm the only guy to rank Kenny Stills because I think he's going to get some work in this game. Even Lance Moore, I have ranked at like 34, I think. Which again, that's not a huge call. Like, oh my God, 34, whoop-de-doo. But I think all those guys are going to get work in this game. Like I said, I expect this to be a shootout and all these wide receivers to get work.
I've got Colston closer to where Rob has him than you do, Marcus. But more for me, it's more just he came back for his first preseason game, the 4th one, and he was banged up this year. This preseason, there was some concerns he might not even be ready for week 1. So I just don't know how healthy he is. Like I said, he did play in the 4th game of the preseason, so obviously he's got to be doing all right if that's the case. He's a veteran. He's not a guy that needs time really on the field. I think they just want to see him out there, but just the injury is a little bit more what scares me. But Marcus, I agree with you. This game is going to be a shootout. I think he's their best receiver. I mean, if you're not talking Jimmy Graham, so I could definitely see him having a big game for sure.
So Stevie Johnson going up against New England this week. I got to say, it looks like I have him ranked higher than most of us. Matt, we've yet to see your ranking, so I know I got him higher than you. But I want to hear before we get into where I have him ranked compared to Rob. Matt, where is he falling on your wide receiver rankings?
He is in the 30s, and it's more like low 30. I'm gonna believe in him a little bit. He just recently said that the New England Patriots can't cover him, so
it's got to be true. It's got to be true.
Hey, we're going to see if he can back up the talk and walk the walk on the field. So I don't have him up at 21. I think you're buying into his comment a little bit too much.
I honestly hadn't heard that comment until right before this podcast. I have him at 21 because, again, my EJ Manuel thing, my anti-homer pick. I think there's going to be a lot of garbage time in this game, and I think he's going to pick up, I'm saying 100 to 110 yards. And maybe a 50% chance at a touchdown, but I think he's going to be pretty close to a lock for 100 yards. But Rob, you got him down at 37. Tell me why the hate.
I think we know what Stevie Johnson's bold prediction is this week. Saying that nobody can cover him out in New England. That's motivation for them. That's just silly before week 1. It's week 1.
He hates New England. Didn't you hear about the tweet he said about? Something about hopefully they drop bombs on New England. I forget who he was talking about.
Oh, I remember that.
He hates New England.
Yeah.
Even with that, you would think he'd have the smarts though to just shut his mouth for week 1. Wait until the second matchup to start smack talking. But it's a little early for the smack talk, and I think it'll be a little early for his great game, bust out game. I do think there'll obviously be a lot of passing in this game, but. Looking at who will be passing the ball and how much that I think Buffalo's going to run the ball and try and manage that that high scoring shootout a little bit. I'm obviously lower on him, and I'm lower on him for the whole year. Plus, I got faith in my New England Pats here to put their money where their mouth is and shut them down. So,
all right. Well, another guy in this game, Danny Amendola, going up against the Bills. This is another one I found a little bit surprising, but both I and Rob have him exactly at 10 this week. So we both have him as you call it a top 10 pick at wide receiver. I think again, huge shootout, almost a lock for a touchdown, probably a lock for 80 yards. So you got 14 points right there in standard scoring, probably pushing close to 20 points in PPRs. I got him as a top 10 guy. Rob's got him as a top 10 guy. Where are you going to have him, Matt?
I think I got him at 16. More of a case I just want to see it one time. And if we see it one time, that might be the only time knowing him. With the injury history.
I feel like I'm going to yell. By the way, I feel like I'm going to yell that a lot this weekend. One time, just one time.
And you actually a couple minutes ago you mentioned standard scoring. Did we tell everyone before we even started we're talking about standard scoring here for these rankings?
It's just assumed.
Yeah,
I think.
Just so everybody
if we're
knows.
not saying PPR, then it's just assumed. Right. Even though PPR is becoming more of the norm.
Yeah, I think I had him at 16, like I said, just as something. I just want to see it for the first time. It looks like they have a great rapport with him and Brady. You saw it in the preseason, week 3. I just want to see it once, that's all. Just want to see it one time before I put him up so high at 10. But I can see where you guys are coming from, for sure. Just a little too high for me.
I definitely think you'll see it. And I'm excited to forget entirely about Wes Welker. Because I think Amendola is going to show us a more versatile Wes Welker. I think he's going to be that guy running all over the field, hopefully not getting injured. Every time he gets hit, probably going to hold our breaths, make sure he gets back
at least the first
up.
couple times.
Yeah, but I do think, like you said, it's going to be a shootout, and Brady and him do have that relationship. I think Amendola could shock us. I think we could be even a little low on him at 10.
So my bold prediction for this week actually comes in the first game of the year, the Denver-Baltimore game. And this will probably shock you guys a little bit, but I'm going to say that in standard scoring PPR, whatever you got,
scores 600 points.
Nope. Eric Decker outscores Wes Welker and Demaryius Thomas. He's going to be the leading Broncos receiver this weekend. I just have a gut call on this one. I have no stats to back this up whatsoever. Just call it a gut call. For some reason, I feel he's going to be the red zone guy, just like he was last year, and he's going to get hit on at least 1, maybe 2 touchdowns Thursday night. Who do you guys got as your bold predictions?
My bold prediction, I had a couple. The Wes Welker having a fantasy irrelevant week 1 was one of them, but the one
kind of falls in line with mine then.
It does, but the one that I'm going to stick to, I'm going to say Dwayne Bowe. I think this week. I think he's going to have a big week. I don't have him ranked as such, but my bold prediction will be he'll be a top 3 wide receiver this week against Jacksonville. I think, again, I'm big on this week 1. They got something to prove. If they're not pumped up for this week to show what they can do, I don't know when they will be. But I think Bo definitely has something to prove, and I think he will week 1. What about you, Matt?
I'm happy you said Dwayne Bowe. It just reminded me of a great team name I saw, Somewhere Over Dwayne Bowe. So my bold prediction for this week is actually...
I like Taste the Dwayne Bowe.
Taste the Dwayne Bowe, yeah, there you go. My bold prediction, Miles Austin outscores Dez Bryant. Dez had a huge preseason. Again, it's a bold prediction, but I got to, they're going to be focusing on Dez. I think Miles is going to be the forgotten man, but Tony's not going to forget about him. He started out great last season, the beginning of the year. He's healthy. I see a big game out of Miles, and I've got Miles over Dez Bryant in my bold prediction this week.
That is pretty bold. I have a league where, actually our home league, where I'm having a hard time debating between who to start, Miles Austin or Hakeem Nicks. And I keep trying to talk myself into it, saying, hey, this is one of the 5 weeks Hakeem Nicks is going to be healthy.
Right. Yeah.
How can you not start him?
It's probably true.
But I do like Miles Austin a lot this year. Moving on to tight ends, though, I think a guy that I think all of us have been kind of all aboard the hype train with all season. Jordan Cameron goes to Miami. both Rob and I have him as a top 5 tight end this weekend. I mean, that's obviously really bold compared to where he was going earlier in this year. I know in a rookie/free agent draft, actually in a league that Matt was in for Dynasty, I got him in the middle of the 3rd round of a rookie/free agent draft.
Wow.
That's how much this guy has popped the last month or so. Matt, what do you think? Are you going to have him in your top 5?
I didn't have him top 5. I think he was 6 for me, so right in line with you guys, not too far behind. I have my bold prediction. I actually have ranked higher, so that's why he's fallen a little bit to that 6. Not quite the top 5. Not that falling for Jordan Cameron to the top 6, but
yeah. I mean, for me, Cameron. There's no Josh Gordon. They got to throw to somebody.
Yeah,
he's there. I like the Miami defense this year. I think they're going to be better than people expect. But at the same time, I don't really see any linebacker that's going to be able to follow him downfield. So that was the reason why I had him so high.
Yeah, like you said, Josh Gordon not being there. Who's left? Greg Little. That's about it. So, yeah, I've got him top 6. You guys both have him top 5. I don't see any problem with that. Drouin, what are you thinking about him? You got him at 4, so you're loving him.
Yeah, and I do love him. I love him this week, and I think he's going to have...
I do love him.
If you
I love him so much.
He loves the Bush and Jordan Cameron.
Yeah. Can we put that on slow-mo? I do love him. No, but I do love him. I think he's going to have a good week. I think he's going to have a good year. Like you mentioned, I think this week he's in a position to do very well. I got him actually in a Dynasty auction league. If you all aren't in auction leagues, you should definitely give him a try. There's some great fun in the draft room, bidding guys up, stashing your cash for the guy you want. It's definitely it puts a really good element to that draft day. But I did get him in a keeper league. I am going to start him this week in that league, and I do think we're going to see a lot of good things out of Cameron.
Yeah, there's going to be lots of good fantasy goodness, I think, for this weekend with Jordan Cameron. Again, we got them all top 5, top 6. So make sure you get him in your starting lineups this week. If you were one of the lucky few to get him late in your drafts, definitely pop him in there in your starting lineups.
The only concern, all accounts are he's fine. He's ready to go. He did have that groin issue. He sat out the 4th preseason game, more of just precautionary reason. So
most starters do.
Keep an eye on it. Yeah. Just keep an eye on it just in case there's something we don't know. But I'm not really concerned about the injury. So just keep an eye on it though.
So bold predictions. Who do you guys got?
For me, I've got Jared Cook. He's going to have 100 yards receiving and a touchdown this week. He's a guy I actually have in the top 5. And I've got him in a league where I have Cameron. I'm going to start.
Wait, you have him in your top 5 this week?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So that's my bold prediction. I'm starting him over Jordan Cameron in a league where I have both this week.
Wow.
Great preseason.
Is that our beer bet of the week? I think it's going to be. I'll take Jordan Cameron.
You'll take
Jared Cook because you're starting him. That's the beer bet right there.
Yep.
We got to start writing these down because you're going to owe me cases upon cases of Bud Light at the end of the year.
Oh, it's a 6-pack every time, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So for bargain hunters like me, do you mind if I do a 12-pack if I lose 2?
No, we're doing 6-packs, but they're going to add up at the end. You're going to owe me case upon case at this point. But that is, I will take Jordan Cameron all week over Jared Cook. Every year there's hype about Jared Cook, and every year he underperforms.
Yeah.
And I think this year people think it's different because he's going to a new team and blah, blah, blah.
Same
old
coach.
It's the same coach. It's the same coach that doesn't know how to utilize him. It's the same coach that lines him up in the wide receiver but never throws him the ball.
What's the Jared Cook matchup this week?
He
Arizona.
He had a great... Yeah, I mean, it's a good offense they're facing. I think they're going to have to score some points.
Mm-hmm. You just say Arizona's a good offense?
Yeah, I think they're going to be a good offense this year. Absolutely. I think St. Louis is going to be losing this game. They're going to have to be coming from behind. And Cook had a great preseason. He was involved heavily in the passing game. My bold prediction: Jared Cook.
That is bold.
Going to win me six beers.
That is.
My bold prediction, and if you listen to the last podcast I was on, it's not going to be any surprise to you. But I think Zach Sudfeld this week will be a top 3 tight end. That's my bold prediction.
Wow.
And I think it's mostly going to be because Amendola will get injured on the first play of the game, and then they'll have to look for somebody to throw to. And I think Sudfeld's going to be that guy. So
Amendola's going to get hurt when they flip the coin. He's going to land on a big toe.
You better hope Amendola doesn't get hurt. You got him ranked 10th.
Yeah, exactly.
I got him ranked 10th, but I think on the first play he's going to get hurt. So Maybe I should move him down later.
It's going to be a 99-yard touchdown reception.
So my bold prediction, and it's kind of hard coming up with one for a tight end because, I mean, Jordan Cameron's the only guy that really stands out to me that I think, could be considered moderately bold. So I kind of took a shot in the dark here, and I'm going to say Brandon Pettigrew is a top 5 tight end this week. I know that's probably not too much of a stretch because once you get out of those couple top tier tight ends, probably anybody has a chance to be a top 5 guy. But they like to throw the ball. They look to him in the red zone. There really hasn't been an emergence of a second wide receiver for Detroit, so I think maybe they turned to him a little bit more than they did last year. His targets, I think, were down last year compared to the year before, so I think they come back up a little bit. I think he has a chance to do something this week. Kickers and defenses, we're not even going to go over. There's
What about my kicker?
Nothing to see here.
My kicker bold prediction.
What's that?
No?
Yeah.
Janikowski hits a 75-yarder.
I was going to say, we'll pull a Marcus Bowl prediction and say Gostowski kicks 3 field goals. We'll just skip over kickers and defenses. There's nothing really to talk about there. It's a shot in the dark. Put guys on a dartboard and throw it at them.
My bold
Hopefully you
prediction
hit the
is
dartboard.
I don't think Janikowski has to wear a belt because he's just so fat. He needs nothing to hold those pants up.
All right, well, make sure you follow all of us on Twitter. Me at Marcus Katkin, Matt at Matt Dugal, and Rob at R Drouin. And make sure to keep sending your questions to #BlindsidePod or emailing us at blindside@blindsidefootball.com. So we got 2 questions this week. The first one comes from Ryan on Twitter at WCUCatamount10. He asks, would you trade Le'Veon Bell for Daryl Richardson straight up?
Why are these questions always so hard? I guess that's why they're a question.
Yeah. If they were easy ones like, who should I start, Larry Fitzgerald or Miles Austin?
Then we just smack them and say, look at the rankings. But
yeah, exactly. But,
I'll let you start, Rob, just because I needed a second here.
This one, you got 2 completely different runners here. Jeez. And Le'Veon Bell, I'm not knocking him down too much because of the injury. I think, it's a lot more optimistic than what we thought it might be from the beginning. But I love Richardson. I got him high in the home league, and I'm the type of guy that once I draft someone and he's on my roster, he's one of my guys. I'm sticking by him, and I would be on the Richardson side of this trade. I would not trade Richardson away for Bell, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Because we don't know exactly when Bell's going to be back for sure, you're getting games that you're not going to get with Bell from Richardson as the starter, in an offense that's maybe up and coming. We'll see how it works out this year, but I wouldn't do that. I would keep Daryl Richardson. I agree with you, Rob.
Well, I'll make it 2-1 then because I would take the Le'Veon Bell side.
Yep.
When we're talking people, this kind of call it late in the draft that you got them. I'm looking for the guy with the biggest upside, the guy that's going to score me, win me weeks. Daryl Richardson will probably have more consistent weeks where he probably has 10 to 12 consistent games of 8 fantasy points type of thing. But I think Le'Veon Bell, especially when he comes back and is the starter, will be a top 20 running back this year because of the workload that he'll get as long as he's healthy. So I would rather take the upside of Le'Veon Bell over the consistency of Daryl Richardson. Other thing being, I'm not really in on the Rams offense this year, and I think maybe there's a 30% chance Richardson loses the job to either Stacy or Pete or Cunningham or somebody, whereas Le'Veon Bell, we know if healthy, he's the guy. I don't think there's any competition there. So I would rather take the upside of Le'Veon Bell over the mundaneness of Daryl Richardson myself.
Obviously, you didn't know that they traded for Felix Jones, so there is somebody there.
Jesus. I repeat, they have nobody there. Yeah. They have nobody there. There was actually rumors that Felix Jones might be the starter this week.
They already. Tomlin came out and said Redmond's the guy.
But when there's rumors that Felix Jones might be the starter, that tells you how bad it is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to butcher this name, but Ken Minchwaner? Man, that is terrible. You can follow him at Ken Minchwaner on Twitter.
Good luck figuring out how to spell that.
Yeah. Sorry, Ken.
Just sound it out.
So He has a question of, it's a 14-team half-point PPR league. He wants to know who is the better sleeper, Keenan Allen or Patrick Edwards. This is real easy for me. I hate rookie wide receivers, but it's Keenan Allen because he has by far the higher upside. I got to tell you, in the game when Detroit played against New England in the preseason and I watched it, when I saw Edwards in the back of the uniform, I for a second had flashbacks of Armonte Edwards. That's who I thought it was because, to me, Patrick Edwards is a nobody. Keenan Allen, at least I think, will be a starter. So I'm taking Keenan Allen.
And I think these are definitely deeper sleepers. You mentioned the 14 team, so I can see why you're looking at these guys. But this is you're reaching at this point. At this point, I'd reach for Allen, and a lot of it's based on the opportunity. You know, I mean, if all their wide receivers were healthy out there in San Diego, I don't know, but I do think he'll have the opportunity to provide some value and some upside. What do you think, man?
They really like Edwards in Detroit. He actually got a lot more time with the starting unit than the consensus sleeper in Detroit there with Broyles. But I agree with you. I think ultimately Broyles is going to be the guy that's gonna get the snaps over Edwards. You know, I could be wrong, but I agree with you guys. Keenan Allen has a faster track, you know, to playing time, to the opportunity. So I'd go with Keenan Allen as well.
My thing with Edwards, too, is even if he wins the number 2 job, even if he is the number 2 wide receiver with the Lions, he's the 4th receiving option. You know, he's after Calvin. He's after Pettigrew. He's after Reggie Bush. He may even be after Joique Bell.
Yep.
But at best, he'll be the 4th receiving option. I get it on a team that throws the ball a lot, but that's your best case scenario.
And I still can't believe he's going to play over Broyles. I don't know. I don't see that lasting.
Yeah.
So, I agree. We got 3 there, 3-0, Keenan Allen.
Yeah, so I think that pretty much does it, unless you guys got anything you want to throw in here.
I got to go home and go to sleep so I can be ready for Thursday night.
Thanks.
I can't wait.
Thanks again for having me. I got a draft coming up here. I'm going to be scooting out too. So
I was gonna say Matt's going to be on a sleep coma here for the next 2 days until
I just want
football
football.
starts.
I just want football. I don't want to have to deal with these next 2 days.
Oh Jesus! All right, well we'll see you guys next week after we have real NFL games to go over. So we'll see you guys next week.
Hey, next week we're going to 2 podcasts a week. By the way, it's going to be right Tuesday nights,
Tuesdays and Fridays.
So just so you guys know,
2 podcasts a week, guys.
Double the fun.
So get ready for it. We'll have a recap episode and then an upcoming episode for the upcoming weekend. So make sure you check us out twice a week starting next week. We'll see you guys next week.
Yo, check it, it's my time. I'm rapping about Blindside, fantasy football podcast in this rhyme because they got me the inside scoop on Adrian Peterson. Yeah, he's that dude on Cam Newton. Yeah, they give me the news more on Megatron, Calvin Johnson if I stay tuned. On all quarterbacks, RG3 happens to be the fastest QB in the league. In fact, Colin Kaepernick is rider QB for them 49ers. It ain't hard to see, Some awesome people hosting Marcus Katkin and Matt Dugal. You should be joining. Skinny or fat, short or tall, anyone can tune in to Blindside Football. Have a try, dude. Listen on iTunes or blindsidefootball.com.